Have you ever looked at someone and assumed they were nothing, only to find out they owned the very ground you were standing on? In a world where money talks, but true wealth whispers. One woman decided to scream. Meet Dominic, a husband who thought he was playing the field, and Elsa the mistress who thought she'd won the jackpot. They laughed at his plain wife, Vivian, for wearing old clothes and flying economy, but they didn't know a secret that would shatter their reality. The hotel they slept in, the casino they gambled in, and even the airport they landed at, all belonged to her. This isn't just a breakup, it's a corporate takeover. The chandelier in the lobby of the Grand Aurora didn't just sparkle, it dripped excess. 5,000 Swarovski crystals suspended over a floor of Italian marble that cost more per square foot than most people earned in a year. It was the kind of place where the air smelled of white tea and cold hard cash. Vivian Street. Claire sat in a wingback velvet chair near the concierge desk, almost disappearing into the upholstery. To the untrained eye, she was nobody. She wore a beige, oversized cardigan that looked a bit too worn, a pair of nondescript leggings and canvas sneakers. Her hair was pulled back in a messy bun, held together by a simple black elastic. There were no logos on her bag, just a soft, slouchy leather tote that had seen better days. She looked like the help, or perhaps a tired nanny waiting for her charges. She was actually waiting for her husband, Dominic Reynolds. He had told her he was in London for a crucial merger that would define his career. He had told her to stay home in Connecticut to water the hydrangeas and keep the house tidy. But Vivian wasn't in Connecticut. She was in Las Vegas, sitting in the lobby of the crown jewel of the Ether Hospitality Group. She checked her watch, a small vintage piece with a scratched face. 10:15 p.m. Right on time. The revolving doors spun, and in walked Dominic. He looked the part of the rising corporate star, a bespoke navy suit, a Tag Heuer watch that he'd bought on credit, and a smile that was too bright for the late hour. He wasn't alone. Clinging to his arm was a woman who was everything Vivian was currently pretending not to be. She was tall, blonde, and loud. Her dress was a neon pink bandage number by Hervé Léger that left very little to the imagination, and she was carrying a Louis Vuitton Neverfull bag that looked brand new. This was Elsa Hart, the personal assistant. Vivian watched over the top of a magazine as they approached the front desk. "Check in for Reynolds," Dominic said, his voice booming with the false confidence of a man spending money he barely had. "Presidential suite," the receptionist, a young man named Carter, typed furiously. "Welcome back, Mr. Reynolds. And Mrs. Reynolds?" Dominic froze. He coughed, glancing nervously at Elsa. No, this is Miss Hart, my associate." Elsa giggled a sharp, grating sound. "The better half for the weekend," she whispered loud enough for the concierge to hear. She leaned against the marble counter, flipping her hair. "Make sure we get the champagne service, sweetie. Dommy promised me the full Aurora experience." Vivian lowered her magazine. She stood up. She didn't rush. She walked with a slow, terrifying calmness toward the desk. "Dommy," she repeated, her voice soft, but cutting through the lobby noise like a razor blade. Dominic whipped around. The color drained from his face so fast he looked like a corpse. "Vivian, what are you doing here?" Elsa looked Vivian up and down, her lip curling in immediate distaste. She saw the messy bun, the sneakers, the beige cardigan. She saw a woman who looked like she shopped at a discount outlet. "Oh my God," Elsa laughed, a cruel barking sound. Is this her? Is this the little wife you talk about? Dom, you're kidding me, Dominic was stammering. Viv, this is work. This is a business trip. You shouldn't be here. You look at you. You're embarrassing me. I'm embarrassing you, Vivian asked, tilting her head. You told me you were in London. Plans changed, Dominic snapped, trying to regain control by raising his voice. And look at you, you show up at a 5-star resort looking like you're here to clean the toilets. Jesus, Viv. Go home. Elsa stepped forward, placing a possessive hand on Dominic's chest. Listen, honey, she said to Vivian, her voice dripping with condescension. I know it's hard to accept that you're just not enough anymore. Dom needs someone who fits his lifestyle. Someone who fits this. She gestured grandly at the gold-leafed ceiling. Look at this place. Look at me. And then look at yourself. You're a frantic housewife in sweatpants crashing a high rollers party. Vivian didn't blink. She looked at Elsa's hand on her husband's chest. Then she looked at the receptionist, Carter. Carter's eyes went wide. He had looked up. He recognized the woman in the beige cardigan. His mouth opened to speak, to say, Good evening, Madame St. Clair. But Vivian held up one finger, a subtle motion that silenced him instantly. I see, Vivian said quietly to Dominic. So this is it. You're trading me in. I'm not doing this here, Dominic hissed, grabbing his keycard from the confused receptionist. Go home, Vivian. Take the bus, take a train. I don't care. Just get out of my sight before security drags you out for loitering. Elsa laughed again. Maybe we should give her some chips, Dom. Let her play the penny slots. She looks like she needs a win. She dug into her Louis Vuitton bag and pulled out a crumpled $5 bill, tossing it at Vivian's feet. Go buy yourself a coffee, sweetie. The adults are talking. The bill landed on the polished marble. The lobby went silent. A few guests turned to watch. Vivian looked down at the $5. Then she looked up at Dominic. Pick it up, she said. What? Dominic scoffed. Pick it up. You're insane, Dominic muttered. He grabbed Elsa's hand. Come on, babe. Let's go to the suite. She's pathetic. They turned their backs on her. As they walked toward the golden elevators, Elsa's laughter echoed off the walls. Did you see her shoes, goddom? I did you a favor taking you off that leash. She's practically a peasant. Vivian stood alone in the center of the lobby. Carter, the receptionist, looked terrified. Madame, he whispered, shall I call security? Shall I have them removed? Vivian bent down and picked up the $5 bill. She folded it neatly and placed it in her pocket. No Carter, she said, her voice dropping the frantic housewife act, revealing the steel beneath. Let them enjoy the night. Let them order the champagne. Let them think they own the world. She pulled a phone from her pocket. Not the cracked iPhone she used around Dominic, but a sleek black satellite phone. Because tomorrow, Vivian smiled, and it was a smile that promised total scorched earth destruction. I'm going to remind everyone who actually owns it. Dominic Reynolds felt like a king. The presidential suite on the 50th floor was larger than the first house he and Vivian had bought together. It had a wraparound balcony overlooking the neon strip, a grand piano, and a bathroom stocked with Hermes amenities. He poured 2 glasses of Krug champagne, $400 a bottle, charged to the room, of course. To us, he toasted, clinking glasses with Elsa. She was lounging on the velvet chaise, scrolling through Instagram. I still can't believe she showed up. Elsa giggled, taking a sip. She looked so grey. Does she even own a dress? Vivienne is simple, Dominic said, waving his hand dismissively. She doesn't understand this world. The luxury, the power. She's content with coupons and leftovers. I've outgrown her Sarah. I need someone who can stand next to me when I make CEO. When we make CEO, Elsa corrected, winking. You know, the staff treated us like royalty downstairs. Did you see that receptionist? He looked like he was about to bow. That's because I'm a platinum member, Dominic lied. He wasn't. He was using a corporate card that was technically flagged for travel expenses, but he figured he'd bury the cost in the quarterly report. Dominic walked to the window, looking out at the sprawling complex of the hotel, the casino below, and the private airfield in the distance where the Gulf Streams were landing. One day, Dominic sighed, I'm going to run a place like this. Little did he know he was currently standing inside a very small part of his wife's portfolio. Downstairs, inside the high-limit Noir room, a private gambling parlor accessible only by retinal scan, Vivienne St. Clair had changed. Gone were the leggings and the beige cardigan. She was now wearing a midnight blue silk jumpsuit that fit her like a second skin, paired with diamond stud earrings that were small but flawless D-color stones worth more than Dominic's car. Her hair was loose, cascading in waves down her back. She sat at the head of a mahogany conference table in a private office behind the casino floor. Across from her sat the general manager of the hotel, a man named Arthur Sterling, and the head of security, a hulking ex-Mossad agent named Silas. The audit is complete, Madame St. Clair. Arthur said, his hands trembling slightly as he slid a black folder across the table. Vivienne opened it. Her eyes scanned the numbers. Dominic Reynolds, she read aloud, mid-level vice president of sales for Omnitech Solutions. Yes. Arthur nodded. Omnitech is a subsidiary of Ether Group. We acquired them 6 months ago. Vivienne smirked. He doesn't know that, does he? No, madame. The acquisition was kept quiet at the board level. As far as Mr. Reynolds knows, he works for an independent tech firm. He has no idea that his ultimate boss is you. Vivienne closed the folder. And his spending. He has charged $42,000 to the corporate card in the last 3 days. Silas, the security chief, rumbled. The suite, the dinners at Le Cirque. A diamond bracelet from the lobby boutique charged an hour ago. For the mistress, Vivienne noted dryly. Yes, Elsa Hart, former waitress, currently unemployed, though she lists herself as a lifestyle influencer online. Vivienne stood up and walked to the wall of monitors. One screen showed the interior of the presidential suite. She watched Dominic, laughing, pouring more champagne, while Elsa jumped on the bed like a child. He thinks I'm poor, Vivienne murmured. He thinks my family money ran out years ago. He thinks I clip coupons because I have to. She turned back to the men. My grandfather built this empire on one rule: never show your hand until the pot is full. Dominic thinks he's holding a royal flush, but he's playing with monopoly money. What are your orders, madame? Arthur asked. Shall we cut off his credit, lock him out of the room? No, Vivienne said, her eyes gleaming dangerously. That's too easy. I don't want to just kick him out. I want to dismantle him. I want him to realize that every breath he takes in this city is by my permission. She tapped the table. Arthur, tomorrow morning, I want the VIP treatment to end. But not abruptly. I want it to glitch. Small inconveniences. His keycard stops working. The water in the shower goes cold. The champagne arrives warm. And then... Vivian looked at the monitor where Elsa was now taking selfies with the view. "We prepare the airport. I believe they're scheduled to fly out on Friday." "Yes, madame. He booked 2 seats on a commercial flight, but he's on the waiting list for the company jet." "Approve the jet," Vivian said. Arthur blinked. "Approve it. For him." "Yes, give him the jet. Let him think he's won. Let him get all the way to the tarmac, because that is where I want the finale to happen." She picked up the $5 bill Elsa had thrown at her earlier. She smoothed it out on the mahogany table. "He treated me like a beggar in my own palace," Vivian whispered. "Now I'm going to show him what it's like to be truly destitute." She looked at Silas. "Get the legal team on the line. I want divorce papers drafted. And Silas, look into Miss Hart's background. Deep dive. If she has so much as an unpaid parking ticket, I want to know." "Consider it done." Vivian turned back to the screen. Dominic was kissing Elsa's neck. "Enjoy the night, Dommy," she said to the screen. "It's the last night of your life as a rich man." The morning sun hit the gold-tinted windows of the presidential suite, usually a signal for the automated blackout curtains to gently retract and the climate control to adjust to a perfect 72 degrees. Instead, Dominic woke up sweating. The room was sweltering. The thermostat on the wall was blank. He groaned, his head pounding from the cheap champagne he'd ended up ordering after the Krug ran out another glitch the concierge had apologized for. He kicked off the Egyptian cotton sheets, which were now clinging to his skin, and stumbled toward the bathroom. "Sarah," he called out. "Sarah, it's boiling in here." There was no answer. He pushed open the double doors to the master bath, expecting to find Elsa soaking in the jacuzzi. Instead, he found her wrapped in a towel, furiously tapping on her phone, her hair wet and limp. "Don't bother," she snapped, not looking up. "The water is freezing. I tried to call the front desk for 20 minutes. No answer. Just hold music. And not even good hold music, Dom. It's some awful elevator jazz." Dominic rubbed his temples. "It's probably just a maintenance cycle. I'll go down there and tear a strip off them. Do they know who I am?" "Apparently not," Elsa muttered, "because room service brought breakfast an hour late and they forgot the avocados. Who forgets avocados in a 5-star hotel?" Dominic showered in icy water, gasping and cursing, washing off the sweat of the night before. He dressed quickly, skipping the shave because the backlit mirror wouldn't turn on. He felt a creeping sense of unease, a tiny fracture in his perfect weekend. He found Elsa on the balcony, fanning herself with a room service menu. "Let's just go to the pool," Dominic said, trying to salvage the mood. "I reserved the Emperor Cabana. Private butler misting fans, the works. We'll cool off there." Elsa perked up. "Fine. But you're buying me those earrings we saw in the lobby to make up for the cold shower." "Done," Dominic said, though his stomach tightened. He did a quick mental calculation of his credit limit. It was getting tight. They took the elevator down. It stopped on every single floor from 50 to 1, picking up families with crying children and tourists with oversized backpacks, despite Dominic pressing the express button repeatedly. When they finally reached the pool deck, the heat was radiating off the concrete. The Oasis pool was a paradise of palm trees and turquoise water. Dominic marched toward the VIP section, the velvet rope parting as he approached the attendant. "Reynolds," Dominic said, adjusting his sunglasses. "Emperor Cabana." The attendant, a young woman with a clipboard, didn't smile. She ran her finger down the list. "I'm sorry, Mr. Reynolds. That reservation was cancelled." "Cancelled?" Dominic's voice rose an octave. I didn't cancel it. The system shows a cancellation due to invalid payment pre-authorization, she said loudly enough for the couple behind them to hear. Dominic felt the blood rush to his face. That's impossible. My card is a corporate black card. Run it again. I can't, sir. The cabana has already been rebooked. By whom? Dominic demanded, stepping forward aggressively. I want to see the manager. Who is in my cabana? The attendant gestured to the sprawling, silk-draped tent in the center of the island. Sitting there back to them was a woman in a wide-brimmed hat, reading a hardcover book. She was being served iced tea by 3 waiters simultaneously. That is a private guest of the owner, the attendant said. Now, if you'd like, there are 2 lounge chairs available near the kiddie pool. Complimentary towels are $5. Elsa let out a screech of disbelief. The kiddie pool, Dominic, do something. This is ridiculous, Dominic spat. He grabbed Elsa's arm. We're leaving. We'll go to the casino. I'll win enough to buy this damn pool. As they stormed off, the woman in the Emperor cabana lowered her book. It was Vivian. She watched them go, her expression unreadable behind her oversized Chanel sunglasses. She picked up her iced tea, a rare blend of Darjeeling that cost $50 a cup, and took a sip. Arthur, the general manager, stepped out from behind a pillar. Too subtle, he asked quietly. Just right, Vivian replied. He's angry now. He's impulsive. When a man like Dominic feels small, he tries to spend his way back to feeling big. Let him go to the tables. Is the dealer ready? Yes, madame. We have Marco at the blackjack table. He's the best cooler in Vegas. Dominic won't win a hand. Vivian nodded. Good. And Arthur. Make sure his key card stops working around 2:00 p.m. I want him to have to come down to the desk and beg to get back into his room. With pleasure. Vivian turned back to her book. It was a biography of Catherine the Great. She found it inspiring. Meanwhile, on the casino floor, Dominic was unraveling. He had pulled $5,000 from the ATM, hitting his daily withdrawal limit, and dipping into the joint savings account he shared with Vivian. She won't notice, he told himself. I'll put it back on Monday with double the interest. He sat at a high-stakes blackjack table. Hit me, Dominic growled. He had a 16. The dealer showed a king. The dealer, a man with dead eyes and quick hands, flipped a card. 7. Bust. Unbelievable. Dominic slammed his fist on the felt. Beside him, Elsa was bored. She was scrolling through TikTok occasionally, sighing. Dom, you're down $4,000. Can we just go shopping? You promised me the bracelet. Quiet, Sarah. I'm working here, Dominic snapped. Double or nothing. He lost the next hand. And the next. It wasn't just bad luck. It was a statistical anomaly. Every time he had a 20, the dealer pushed. Every time he had a 12, he busted. It was as if the cards themselves were allergic to him. By 1:30 p.m., Dominic had lost $7,000. He was sweating through his linen shirt. That's it, Elsa said, standing up. I'm going to the room to order lunch. You are being a loser right now, and it's not a good look. Fine, go. Dominic yelled, ignoring the stares of the pit boss. I'll come up when I've won it back. Elsa stomped off toward the elevators. Dominic sat there, staring at his last $100 chip. He felt a vibration in his pocket. It was a text from Vivian. Hi, honey. Just checking in. The water heater at home broke, and the repairman needs $200. I don't have enough in the checking account. Did you move some money? Love. Viv. Dominic stared at the phone. The audacity. He was here losing a fortune, and she was bothering him about a water heater. He typed back, "Handle it yourself. I'm in a meeting. Stop spending money." He threw the phone down and pushed his last chip forward. All in. The dealer flipped an ace and a jack, blackjack, for the house. Dominic stared at the table, his vision swimming. He was broke. Cash broke. He had to use the corporate card for everything else now. He stood up, his legs shaky, and headed for the elevators. He needed a drink, and he needed to scream at someone. When he got to the elevator bank, he saw Elsa arguing with a security guard. "What do you mean, access denied?" she was shrieking. "I am in the presidential suite." "I'm sorry, miss," the guard said calmly. "The keycard is reading invalid. You'll need to go to the front desk to re-verify your payment method." Dominic walked up, his face pale. "What is going on? Your card is declined, Dom," Elsa yelled, hitting him on the chest with her clutch. "They locked us out." "My makeup is in there. My chargers fix it." Dominic looked around. People were watching. The facade was cracking. I'll handle it," he whispered. "It's a bank error. It has to be." But deep down in the pit of his stomach, Dominic Reynolds was starting to feel the cold shadow of the woman he had left in Connecticut. Or so he thought. The lobby of the Grand Aurora was bustling, but for Dominic the noise was distant buzz. He stood at the reception desk, sweating profusely, while Elsa sat on a nearby bench, refusing to look at him. "Mr. Reynolds," the receptionist said, a different one this time, a woman with a sharp bob and glasses. "I see the issue. The credit card on file, the corporate Amex. It's been flagged for unusual activity. The bank requires voice authorization." "Fine," Dominic said, wiping his forehead. "Give me the phone." "Actually, sir, since the bill currently exceeds the pre-authorization limit by—" She checked the screen. $14,000. We require a secondary form of payment to unlock the room." "I don't have another card on me," Dominic hissed. "Look, I am a vice president at Omnitech. You know we are good for it. Just unlock the damn door." "I can't do that, sir. Company policy." Dominic was about to explode when a man in a sharp grey suit approached him. "Mr. Reynolds?" Dominic turned. "Yes, who are you?" "I'm Silas, head of security," the man said. His voice was deep, gravelly. "We've had a call from your corporate headquarters. They are trying to reach you regarding the merger." Dominic's eyes widened. The merger. The London deal. If that went through, his bonus would cover this entire disaster of a trip 10 times over. "Yes. Yes, I've been having phone trouble," Dominic lied. "They are waiting for you in conference room B," Silas said. "Right this way." Dominic turned to Elsa. "Babe, wait here. This is it. This is the big win. Once I sign this, I'll buy the hotel." Elsa rolled her eyes, but stayed put. "Just hurry up. I need to change." Dominic followed Silas through the lobby, down a long corridor lined with black and white photos of Vegas history. They entered a boardroom that smelled of leather and mahogany. At the far end of the table sat a woman with her back to him, looking out the window. "Hello," Dominic said, straightening his tie. "I'm Dominic Reynolds from Omnitech." The chair swiveled. It wasn't Vivian. It was a woman Dominic didn't recognize, severe older, with silver hair. This was Eleanor Vance Vivian's personal attorney, though Dominic didn't know that. "Mr. Reynolds," Eleanor said, not standing up. "I represent the acquisition firm. Please sit." Dominic sat. He felt a surge of confidence. This was his arena. bullshitting in boardrooms. I assume you've seen the quarterly projections. Dominic started engaging his sales voice. Omnitech is poised for 20% growth. We aren't interested in the projections, Mr. Reynolds. Eleanor cut him off gently. We are interested in the assets. She slid a piece of paper across the table. We understand you are currently utilizing the company jet for your return trip. Dominic blinked. Yes, it was approved. My assistant booked it. Indeed. The Gulfstream G650. It's waiting on the tarmac now. Dominic's heart leaped. It's real. The jet was real. That meant the company still valued him. The hotel credit card issue really was just a glitch. Excellent, Dominic said, relaxing. I appreciate the hospitality. There is one condition, Eleanor said. The board wants to meet you, in person, immediately upon your landing in New York. They want to discuss your future role. Of course, Dominic beamed. I'd be honored. Good. The jet leaves in 2 hours. I suggest you gather your things. We have taken the liberty of settling your hotel bill to ensure a swift departure. Dominic nearly collapsed with relief. You paid the bill. It has been absorbed into the acquisition costs, Eleanor said with a tight smile. Consider it a signing bonus. Dominic stood up, feeling 10 feet tall. Thank you. You won't regret this. He practically ran out of the room. Back in the lobby, he grabbed Elsa and spun her around. We're back, baby, he shouted. They paid the bill. The merger is happening, and we are taking the private jet home. Elsa's mood flipped instantly. The jet. The private one. Oh my God. Dom, I need to take pictures. Let's go pack. We have a plane to catch. Up in the penthouse, no longer the presidential suite, but the owner's penthouse on the top floor. Vivian watched the feed from the boardroom. Eleanor walked in. He took the bait, Madame St. Clair. He thinks he's being promoted, Vivian said, staring at the screen where Dominic was high-fiving a confused bellboy. He thinks the company paid his bill. He doesn't realize that he is the liability we are acquiring, Eleanor noted. Vivian turned away from the screen. She walked over to a mannequin where a new outfit was waiting. It wasn't the beige cardigan. It wasn't the silk jumpsuit. It was a power suit. White, sharp, the kind of suit a woman wears when she is about to execute a hostile takeover. Is the plane crew ready? Vivian asked. Yes, Silas answered from the doorway. Captain Miller knows the plan. They will board. They will taxi. But they won't take off immediately. Why not? Because, Vivian smiled, the owner needs to board first. You're flying with them? Eleanor asked, surprised. Oh no, Vivian corrected. I'm not flying with them. I'm flying instead of them. But I want to see their faces when they realize the seats they are sitting in, belong to me. She checked her watch. Let's go to the airport. It's time to end this charade. The private airfield was a shimmering expanse of heat and asphalt. The Gulfstream G650 stood like a silver hawk, its engines humming. A red carpet, an actual red carpet, had been rolled out. Dominic and Elsa stepped out of the hotel's complimentary limousine, a final courtesy Arthur had approved. Now this is how I'm supposed to travel, Elsa cooed, snapping a selfie with the jet in the background. She was wearing a white faux fur stole, despite the 100-degree heat. Dominic adjusted his suit. He felt invincible again. The cold shower, the declined card, all forgotten. He was a corporate god. They walked up the stairs of the jet. The interior was magnificent. Cream leather seats, gold fittings, a bar stocked with vintage scotch. "Welcome aboard, Mr. Reynolds," the flight attendant said. She was professional cold. Champagne, Elsa ordered, flopping into a window seat. And make it the good stuff. I'm afraid we can't serve alcohol on the ground. Miss, the attendant said. Whatever. Just get us in the air. Dominic waved his hand. He buckled his seatbelt. New York, here we come. Goodbye, Vegas. Goodbye, poverty. He closed his eyes, visualizing his new office. Suddenly, the pilot's voice crackled over the intercom. Ladies and gentlemen, this is Captain Miller. We have a slight delay. We are waiting for the final passenger manifest to be cleared by the owner. Owner? Dominic opened his eyes. I thought this was a corporate jet. Omnitech owns it. Maybe the CEO is coming, Elsa asked, suddenly nervous. Dom, should I put my shoes back on? Before Dominic could answer, a black SUV rolled onto the tarmac. It didn't stop at the gate. It drove straight up to the plane stairs. Dominic peered out the window. Who is that? The door of the SUV opened. First, a security guard stepped out. Silas. Then a woman. She was wearing a white suit that looked like it cost more than Dominic's life insurance policy. Her hair was blown out in perfect waves. She carried a briefcase that looked like a weapon. Dominic squinted. The woman looked familiar. But the posture, the walk, it was so commanding, so regal. She walked up the stairs of the plane. Dominic unbuckled his seatbelt. I should greet them. It must be the chairman's wife. He stood up and straightened his jacket. The cabin door opened. The woman stepped inside. She took off her sunglasses slowly. Dominic's jaw dropped. His knees actually buckled, and he had to grab the headrest to stay upright. Elsa looked up from her phone, gasped, and dropped it. Vivian, Dominic choked out. The word felt like sand in his throat. Vivian St. Clair didn't look at him. She handed her briefcase to the flight attendant. Thank you, Sarah, Vivian said to the attendant. You can prep the cabin for departure. Yes, Mrs. Reynolds St. Clair, the attendant replied deferentially. Vivian finally turned her gaze to Dominic. It wasn't the gaze of a wife looking at her husband. It was the gaze of a predator looking at wounded prey. You're in my seat, Dominic, she said calmly. Your seat, Dominic stammered. Viv, what are you doing here? How did you get on the tarmac? This is the company jet. Vivian laughed. It was a soft, terrifying sound. Oh, darling, she said, stepping closer, smelling of expensive perfume and victory. You really haven't figured it out yet. Have you? Omnitech didn't pay your hotel bill. I did. Omnitech didn't approve the jet. I did. I don't understand, Dominic whispered. Omnitech, Vivian said, enunciating every syllable, is a subsidiary of Ether Hospitality, which is a holding of the St. Clair Trust. She leaned in close, her eyes locking onto his. I don't just water the hydrangeas, Dominic. I own the water company. I own the hotel. I own this plane. And as of this morning, she pulled a document from her inner pocket and dropped it on his tray table. I own you. The silence inside the cabin of the Gulf Stream was heavier than the humid air outside. Dominic stared at the document on the tray table. It was a deed of trust, notarized and stamped. The St. Clair Family Trust. Listed assets included Ether Hospitality Group, Vanguard Aviation, and Omnitech Global. This is fake. Dominic stammered, his voice cracking. Your father. He lost everything in 08. You told me. You told me we had to live on my salary, because there was nothing left. Vivian sat in the leather seat opposite him, crossing her legs. She looked like a queen addressing a peasant who had wandered into the throne room. I told you my father lost his liquidity, Vivian corrected coolly. I never said he lost the assets. We moved into the growth phase. We lived quietly to reinvest the dividends. I drove a Honda, so this company could buy your company. I clipped coupons, so we could acquire the airline you're sitting in. She leaned forward, her eyes hard as diamonds. I played the role of the supportive, frugal wife because I thought we were building something together, Dominic. I thought we were a team. I didn't realize I was just the bankroll for your midlife crisis. Elsa, who had been frozen in shock, suddenly found her voice, the survival instinct of a parasite kicking in. "Vivian, Mrs. Reynolds," Elsa said, her voice trembling with a fake sweetness. "You have to understand. I didn't know. Dom told me you were separated. He said you were legally roommates." "Shut up, Elsa," Dominic and Vivian said in unison. Vivian turned her gaze to the mistress. "And you, the lifestyle influencer. I had Silas run your socials. You have 12,000 followers, and 11,000 of them are bots you bought in Pakistan. You're not an influencer. You're a line item on my husband's credit card statement. A very expensive, tacky line item." Elsa's mouth opened and closed like a fish. "Now," Vivian checked her watch, "I have a board meeting in New York at 8 p.m. This plane is scheduled for takeoff in 10 minutes. "Great." Dominic exhaled, wiping sweat from his upper lip. "Look, Viv. Honey. We can talk about this in the air. We can fix this. I've been stressed. The pressure at work. I made a mistake. But we're married. We can work it out." He reached for her hand. Vivian pulled back as if he were radioactive. "You seem to be confused, Dominic," she said softly. "I said this plane is taking off. I didn't say you were on it." Dominic froze. "What? Get out," Vivian said. "You can't leave us here," Elsa shrieked. "We're in the middle of a private airfield. It's 100 degrees outside. How are we supposed to get home?" "Commercial." Vivian shrugged. "I hear Spirit Airlines has a sale on middle seats, although given that I've frozen all your assets, Dominic, you might want to look into a Greyhound bus." "Frozen my assets." Dominic stood up, hitting his head on the overhead bin. "You can't do that. That's my money." "It's marital money." Vivian smiled a shark's smile. "And since I suspect you're about to be unemployed, I've petitioned the court to freeze the accounts to prevent wasteful dissipation. Buying a diamond bracelet for a mistress counts as wasteful, by the way." She pressed the call button. "Silas." The large security chief appeared in the doorway of the plane. "Mr. Reynolds and Miss Hart are leaving now," Vivian said. "Help them with their luggage, and by help I mean throw it on the tarmac." "No, my Louis Vuitton," Elsa screamed as Silas grabbed her bag and tossed it out the door. It hit the asphalt with a sickening crunch. "Dominic, move," Silas grunted. "Vivian, please," Dominic begged, backing away. "Don't do this. I'm a vice president. I have dignity." "You left your dignity in the casino when you tried to gamble with my money," Vivian said, picking up a magazine. "Goodbye, Dominic. See you in court." Silas grabbed Dominic by the back of his expensive suit jacket and physically marched him to the door. Dominic stumbled down the stairs, nearly tripping over Elsa, who was on her knees checking her bag for scratches. The stairs retracted. The door sealed shut with a heavy thud. Dominic and Elsa stood on the burning, hot asphalt. The heat waves shimmered off the ground. Inside the cool, pressurized cabin, Vivian signaled the pilot. The engines roared to life. A blast of hot jet wash hit Dominic and Elsa, blowing Elsa's hat across the runway and covering Dominic's face in dust. They watched the G650 taxi away, a silver bullet shooting towards the sky. "My phone is dead," Elsa cried, holding up her device. "And I don't have any cash." "You have cash, right, Dom?" Dominic checked his pockets. He had the $5 bill Vivian had forced him to pick up in the lobby yesterday. That was it. He looked at the $5. Then he looked at the distant terminal building, a mile-long walk across the sun-scorched restricted zone. "Start walking," Dominic muttered. "I hate you," Elsa screamed, throwing her heels at him. "This is all your fault." "Shut up," Dominic roared back, the reality of his situation finally crashing down on him. "Just shut up and walk." Monday morning in Connecticut usually brought Dominic a sense of superiority. He would drive his leased BMW into the Omnitech parking lot park in his reserved spot and walk in like he owned the place. This Monday was different. He had arrived back in Connecticut at 3 a.m. after a 13-hour nightmare involving a delayed budget flight, a middle seat next to a man eating tuna salad, and a $200 Uber ride he had to beg the driver to charge to his already over-limit credit card, promising a cash tip he didn't have. He hadn't gone home. He was terrified to face Vivian. He had slept in his car in the office parking lot. He woke up at 7:30 a.m. with a stiff neck and a suit that looked like he'd slept in it, because he had. He tried to splash water on his face in the lobby bathroom, but the dark circles under his eyes were permanent. "I just need to get to my office," he told himself. "If I can get to my desk, I can access the company accounts. I can move some numbers around. I can fix this." He took the elevator to the 12th floor. The office was buzzing. Phones were ringing. People were typing. But as Dominic walked down the central aisle, the noise died down. Heads turned. Whispers started. "Is that him? Look at his suit. I heard she owns the whole building." Dominic kept his head down, marching toward his corner office. He reached the glass door with his nameplate, Dominic Reynolds, VP of Sales. He reached for the handle. It was locked. He tapped his keycard against the reader. Beep, beep. Access denied. "Stupid thing," Dominic muttered, tapping it harder. Beep, beep. "Mr. Reynolds." Dominic turned. Standing behind him wasn't his assistant, Sarah. It was the director of human resources, a woman named Karen, who usually smiled at his jokes. She wasn't smiling today. Beside her stood two large men in security uniforms. "Karen." Dominic forced a laugh. "My keycard is acting up. Must be the magnetic strip." "Your access has been revoked, Dominic," Karen said loudly. The entire office floor was now silent. Every ear was tuned in. "Revoked? What are you talking about? I have a meeting with the London team in 10 minutes. "There is no London team," Karen said. "And you don't have a meeting. You have an exit interview." She gestured to the conference room, the fish bowl with glass walls where everyone could see inside. Dominic felt his stomach drop. "I'm not doing this here. I want to speak to the CEO. Get Mike on the phone." "Mike doesn't work here anymore either," Karen said. "He was let go this morning for lack of institutional controls. The new acting CEO is flying in from New York, but she left instructions regarding you." "She," Dominic whispered. "Please step into the conference room, Dominic. Don't make us drag you." Dominic walked into the room. Sitting on the table was a single cardboard box. Inside were a stapler, a framed photo of him and Elsa which he had foolishly kept on his desk, and a stress ball. Karen slid a thick stack of papers across the table. "This is your notice of termination," she said. "On what grounds?" Dominic demanded, trying to find his old bluster. "I am the top salesman in this division. I brought in the Parker account. Grounds." Karen opened a folder. Let's start with embezzlement. I never stole a dime. You utilized the corporate American Express for personal travel to Las Vegas, Karen read. Charges include a presidential suite at the Aurora Gambling Chips jewelry purchases and dining. Total unauthorized spend, $42,300. That was a business trip. I was meeting a client. We checked, Karen said monotonously. There were no clients, just a Miss Elsa Hart. Furthermore, you attempted to commandeer a corporate asset, the G650 jet, for personal transport, without authorization. Vivian authorized it, Dominic shouted. She was there. Mrs. St. Clair, Karen corrected sharply, is the chairman of the board. You are an employee. She did not authorize you to use the jet. She reclaimed it. Karen flipped the page. Additionally, we have violations of the morality clause. Bringing a mistress to a company-owned property and verbally abusing staff members, specifically the reception team at the Aurora, who filed formal complaints about your conduct. Dominic sank into the chair. So, I'm fired. Terminated with cause, Karen said, which means no severance package, no stock options. Those are forfeited. But I need that severance, Dominic cried. I have a mortgage, I have car payments. Actually, Karen pulled out another document regarding the $42,300 you stole. The company is filing a civil suit to recover those funds. We will be garnishing any future wages and placing a lien on your personal assets. You can't do that, Dominic whispered. It's already done. Security will escort you out. One of the guards stepped forward. Let's go, Mr. Reynolds. Dominic stood up. He grabbed the cardboard box. He walked out of the glass room. The walk to the elevators felt like a funeral procession. His former colleagues, people he had bragged to, people he had belittled, watched him go. Some looked pitying. Most looked amused. He saw his assistant Sarah typing furiously on her computer. She didn't even look up. As the elevator doors closed, cutting off his view of the life he used to have, his phone buzzed. He looked at the screen. It was a text from Elsa. Hey Dom, I saw the news online. TMZ picked it up. Husband of hotel heiress fired for embezzlement. Dominic typed back, Sarah. I can explain. It's a misunderstanding. I'll fix it. 3 dots appeared. Then the message came through. Don't bother. I'm blocking you. Also, the diamond bracelet is fake. The pawn shop laughed at me. You're a loser, Dominic. Goodbye. Dominic stared at the phone. The blocked symbol appeared next to her name. He walked out of the building into the harsh sunlight of the parking lot. He walked to his BMW. A tow truck was backing up to it. Hey. Dominic ran forward, dropping his box. The stapler clattered across the pavement. What are you doing? That's my car. The tow truck driver, a burly man with a cigar, looked at a clipboard. Lease is under Omnitech Corporate Fleet, the driver said. Order came in 10 minutes ago. Repossess immediately. But how am I supposed to get home? Dominic pleaded. The driver shrugged. Not my problem, buddy. He hooked up the car and lifted it. Dominic watched as his last symbol of status was dragged away. He stood alone in the empty parking spot. He checked his pockets. $5. He had $5, and he realized with a sinking horror that the only person who might possibly help him was the woman he had spent the last year betraying. He had to go home. He had to face Vivian. It took Dominic 4 hours to get home. He took a bus that smelled of diesel and wet dog, which dropped him 3 miles from his neighborhood. He walked the rest of the way in his Italian leather loafers, which were now scuffed and blistering his heels. By the time he reached the driveway of the colonial house in Greenwich, It was late afternoon. The hydrangeas were in full bloom, blue and vibrant, mocking him. This was the house he had often complained about. "It's too small, Viv," he used to say. "The kitchen is outdated. We need something modern." Now looking at it, he realized he didn't even own a brick of it. He walked up the porch steps exhausted. He reached for his house key. It slid into the lock, but it wouldn't turn. Changed. He rang the doorbell. Once. Twice he pounded on the wood. "Vivian." "Open the door. I live here." The door opened. It wasn't Vivian. It was Silas, the security chief from the hotel. He was wearing a black polo shirt that strained against his biceps. "Mr. Reynolds," Silas nodded, blocking the doorway. "We've been expecting you." "Get out of my house," Dominic spat, though his voice lacked any real threat. "Not your house," Silas corrected calmly. "Step inside. Madame St. Clair is in the study." Dominic pushed past him. The hallway was filled with boxes, his golf clubs, his winter coats, his collection of vintage vinyl records, all packed and stacked near the door. He stormed into the study. Vivian was sitting at the oak desk. She was still wearing the white power suit from the plane. She was writing on a notepad with a fountain pen. She didn't look up when he entered. "You changed the locks," Dominic accused, breathless. "Security protocol," Vivian said, her voice cool and detached. "When an unauthorized individual has keys to a secure facility, you change the cylinders." "I am your husband." Security threat. Vivian finally looked up. Her eyes were devoid of the warmth he used to see. There was no anger, which was worse. There was only indifference. "You are a liability, Dominic. And my family didn't stay wealthy for 4 generations by keeping liabilities on the payroll." Dominic slumped into a chair, one of the leather wingbacks he loved. "Viv, please," he said, his voice breaking. "Can we stop the act? I know you're angry. I know I screwed up. But you deceived me too. You lied to me for 5 years. You pretended to be poor." Vivian stood up slowly. She walked around the desk and leaned against the edge, crossing her arms. "I didn't lie, Dominic. I omitted. And do you know why? Because you didn't trust me," Dominic said bitterly. "Because I wanted to be loved," she replied softly. "My whole life, men have looked at me and seen a bank account. They saw the St. Clair, name the hotels, the influence. They didn't see me. When I met you, you were different. You were ambitious, yes, but you seemed genuine. You didn't know who I was. I wanted to see if you could love Vivian, the woman, not Vivian, the heiress." She walked over to the window, looking out at the garden she had tended with her own hands. "I gave you a life, Dominic. A good life. I supported your career. I comforted you when you lost accounts. I made this house a home. But it wasn't enough, was it? You needed the flash. You needed the status. And the moment you thought you had outgrown me, the moment you thought you were a big shot, you discarded me like yesterday's trash." "I didn't discard you," Dominic protested. "It was just a fling. You took her to my hotel." Vivian snapped, her voice rising for the first time. "You slept in my suite. You laughed at me in my lobby. You threw $5 at me on my floor." She reached into her pocket and pulled out the crumpled $5 bill. She flicked it at him. It hit his chest and fluttered to the floor. "Here, you might need this." Dominic stared at the bill. "So what now?" he whispered. "You divorce me. You take half my stuff." Vivian laughed dryly. Half. Oh, Dominic, you really didn't read the papers we signed before the wedding, did you? Dominic frowned. The prenup I insisted on, that I wanted to protect my 401k. Yes. Vivian smiled. You were so worried about your $50,000 in savings that you demanded a strict separation of assets. You insisted that what is mine and what is yours is yours. She picked up a blue folder from the desk. My lawyers were thrilled. You signed away any claim to the St. Clair estate. You signed away alimony. You signed away the house which is held by the trust. You walked into a fortress and locked yourself out. She tossed the folder onto his lap. This is the divorce decree. It's already filed. You leave with exactly what you brought into this marriage, which after the lawsuit for the money you stole from the company is effectively zero. Dominic felt the room spinning. It was a total checkmate. He had built his own prison brick by arrogant brick. Where am I supposed to go? He asked, his voice trembling. Vivian, I have nowhere. I heard Elsa is looking for a roommate, Vivian said icily, though I doubt she'll take you without a credit card. She pressed a button on her desk phone. Silas. He's ready. Silas appeared in the doorway. Time to go, Mr. Reynolds. Dominic stood up. He looked at Vivian one last time. He wanted to scream, to beg, to apologize. But looking at her, standing there in her suit, powerful and untouchable, he realized he had never really known her at all. He had been living with a sleeping dragon, and he had been foolish enough to poke it. Goodbye, Dominic, she said, turning her back to him to rearrange a vase of flowers. Silas grabbed Dominic's arm, not gently. He escorted him out of the study down the hallway, past the photos of their wedding that were already being taken down by a maid. They reached the front door. Silas shoved a dolly loaded with boxes onto the porch. The Uber is waiting at the curb, Silas said. Madame paid for it. It's a pool ride. You're sharing with 2 others. The heavy oak door slammed shut. The deadbolt clicked. Dominic stood on the porch, surrounded by his cardboard boxes. The sun was setting, casting long shadows across the lawn. He used to think was his. He dragged his boxes down the driveway to the waiting Toyota Camry. The driver popped the trunk. It was already half full. Dominic squeezed his life into the remaining space. He climbed into the back seat, squeezing next to a teenager listening to loud music. As the car pulled away, Dominic looked back at the house. The lights in the study turned off. The lights in the master bedroom turned on. Vivienne was moving on. The mistress was gone. The job was gone. The money was gone. He reached into his pocket, and his fingers brushed the crumpled paper. He pulled it out. $5. He started to laugh, a low, hysterical laugh that made the teenager next to him inch away. He laughed until tears ran down his face, realizing that the joke in the end was entirely on him. And that is the tragic yet satisfying downfall of Dominic Reynolds. He chased the glitter and lost the gold. He thought power came from a credit card limit and a loud mistress, never realizing that true power, the kind Vivian held, doesn't need to shout to be heard. It's a brutal lesson. Be careful who you step on while climbing the ladder, because they might just own the building. Dominic learned the hard way that when you laugh at your partner, you better make sure you aren't standing on a trapdoor they control. What would you have done if you were Vivian? Would you have forgiven him, or was the airport takedown exactly what he deserved? Let me know in the comments below. I read every single one. If you enjoyed this story of karma and justice, please smash that like button. It really helps the channel grow. And don't forget to subscribe and hit the bell icon so you never miss the next dramatic real-life story. Thanks for watching and see you in the next video.